There are people who seem harmless, people who initially appear friendly, close, even charming. But over time, their true energy begins to show. Without you realizing it, they manipulate you, drain your energy, make you doubt yourself, and if you're not careful, they can turn your life into chaos from which it will be difficult to escape. Sigmund Freud studied the unconscious mind and the hidden mechanisms in human behavior, revealing signs that can warn you when someone will bring problems into your life. In this video, I'm going to show you these signs. Pay attention to what you'll learn today. You'll be able to detect people who can destroy your peace in time, and most importantly, you'll know how to protect yourself from them before it's too late. When someone transmits something strange to you, trust that feeling. I'm sure it's happened to you. You meet someone for the first time, and although everything seems normal, something inside you doesn't feel right. They haven't done anything wrong or said anything strange, but there's something in their gaze, their tone of voice, their presence that makes you uncomfortable for no apparent reason. This is where many people make the mistake of ignoring it because our rational mind tells us, don't judge without knowing them, maybe I'm exaggerating, I have no proof that something is wrong. But the unconscious mind knows. Freud spoke about how we capture invisible signals before our mind processes them consciously. This is what he called the unconscious, a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that exists outside our conscious awareness. In other words, your intuition isn't magic or paranoia, it's a warning signal coming from a deeper part of your psyche. Let me tell you something. One day, a friend introduced me to someone. They were educated, spoke well, smiled at the right moment, but something about their presence didn't leave me at ease. I couldn't explain it, but there was a sensation in my chest, in my stomach, as if my body were telling me something here doesn't fit. I decided to ignore it. After all, how could I judge someone without a real reason? Months passed, and over time, I realized this person wasn't who they claimed to be. Behind their friendliness was a clear pattern of manipulation, two-facedness, and falsehood. That's when I understood something important. The unconscious mind doesn't lie, but often we refuse to listen to it. If I had trusted my instinct from the beginning, I would have saved myself many problems. Intuition isn't magic, it's survival. Freud explained that the unconscious mind stores repressed thoughts and experiences that influence our behavior without our awareness. It's information we capture before we can verbalize it. Our brain is capable of reading micro-expressions, tone of voice, body language, and subtle signals that reveal someone's true intention even when that person tries to hide it. When you see someone and feel a strange sensation, what's actually happening is that your unconscious has detected patterns of behavior similar to past dangerous situations. Perhaps you caught a fleeting expression of contempt, perhaps their smile wasn't sincere, perhaps their tone of voice didn't match their words. But since your conscious mind can't explain it in words, you feel it as a simple intuition. And here comes the most important part. Most people ignore these signals because they can't rationally justify them, and that's the worst mistake you can make. Obviously, we can't live distrusting everyone, but we can learn to listen to our intuition without ignoring it or exaggerating it. Here's a key difference. Intuition is subtle but persistent. If something doesn't feel right from the first moment and that feeling remains present over time, you should pay attention to it. Paranoia is explosive and constantly changing. If you feel extreme distrust toward many people and your perceptions change constantly, it might be more an internal fear than a real signal. Freud said that the unconscious knows before the conscious mind does. So the next time you feel that inexplicable sensation about someone, don't ignore it, because many times that initial small discomfort is the only warning you'll receive before it's too late. And here comes something even more important, because some people not only transmit a strange energy but also have the ability to drain yours. Pay close attention, as the second point will relate to the last one in this video. Now that you know the unconscious mind doesn't lie and that your intuition can perceive what your mind hasn't yet processed, there's something else you need to understand. Not all people who generate a strange sensation in you do so in an obvious way. Some don't attack you, don't manipulate you openly, don't even seem harmful at first glance. But every time you talk with them, every time you share a moment by their side, you feel drained. It's as if something inside you slowly turned off. You lose enthusiasm, you lose mental clarity, and without realizing it, you end up exhausted, without energy, and without clear reasons to feel that way. Freud talked about psychological mechanisms like projection and transference, where people shift their unresolved internal conflicts onto others. Some people, unable to find their own source of internal energy, take it from others. These are what we call emotional vampires, and the most dangerous thing is that at first, they can seem harmless or even charming. Let me tell you something. A while ago, I met someone who seemed like an incredible person. They were always there to listen, always had an interesting story to tell, always found a way to make others pay attention to them. They were someone with charisma, with ease of speech, with magnetic energy. But there was a problem. After every conversation with that person, I felt empty. At first, I didn't understand why. We hadn't talked about anything negative, there hadn't been discussions or conflicts. But somehow each interaction left me with less energy than I had before. Over time, I realized what was happening. This person didn't talk to connect, they talked to absorb. Their conversations weren't a balanced exchange, but a monologue disguised as interest. Their presence wasn't support, it was a constant demand for attention and validation. And most concerning was that their emotional exhaustion became mine. That's when I understood one of the most dangerous dynamics between human beings. Some people don't harm you directly, they wear you down slowly until they leave you without your own energy. Freud discussed how repression of our own psychological conflicts can lead us to project them onto others. This means their lack of energy, their anxiety, or their internal chaos end up becoming part of your emotional burden. Here are 3 key signs that someone is draining your energy. 1. Every time you talk with them, the conversation revolves around their problems. No matter how the chat starts, it always ends up being about their complaints, their frustrations, their conflicts. They don't seek solutions, they only seek to unload their emotional weight onto you. 2. They make you feel guilty if you're not available for them. If you try to set boundaries, they make you feel selfish. If you take time for yourself, they make you notice how much they need you. It's a subtle manipulation that forces you to be present even when you know you need to distance yourself. 3. When you're away from them, you feel relieved instead of missing them. This is a definitive sign. When a person truly adds to your life, their absence feels like a void. But when someone has been draining you, their absence feels like a relief. If you've ever distanced yourself from someone and, instead of missing them, you feel your mind and body are lighter, that's the biggest sign that their energy was affecting you. People who absorb others' energy don't always do it consciously. Many times, they do it because they never learned to manage their own repressed desires and conflicts. Not knowing how to fill that space with their own light, they seek to steal the light of others. But here's the most important thing, you are not responsible for healing these people. You don't have the obligation to carry their emotional chaos. If someone is draining you, you have the right to protect your energy and walk away, because if you don't, little by little, you'll dim without realizing it. And here comes the most dangerous part, because some people not only drain your energy but also make you doubt your own reality. There's a form of manipulation more dangerous than any direct aggression. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, and can destroy your confidence without you realizing it. It's when someone makes you doubt your own reality. Freud talked about defense mechanisms, ways in which the ego protects itself from anxiety. Some people, instead of confronting their own repressed conflicts, impose them on you. This type of manipulation doesn't happen with shouts or evident threats. It happens in normal conversations, in small gestures, in words disguised as concern. It's when someone tells you that never happened, you're imagining it, you're exaggerating, as always, I never said that, you're getting confused. And little by little, you start to doubt your perception. Let me tell you something, some time ago, a person close to me used to make me feel as if my emotions weren't valid. If I expressed that something bothered me, the response was always the same, it's not that big a deal, you always dramatize things, if it were really a problem, you wouldn't be the only one who sees it that way. At first, I ignored it. I thought that maybe I was exaggerating, that perhaps I was the one seeing things incorrectly. But over time, I started to notice a pattern. Every time I tried to talk about something that affected me, they made me feel I was the problem. And the worst part is that I began to believe it. I constantly asked myself, am I being too sensitive? Is my perception not reliable? Maybe the problem is me and not what's happening. That's the real danger of this type of manipulation. They don't attack you directly, they make you doubt yourself until you start to nullify yourself. This phenomenon has a name in psychology, gaslighting. It's a form of manipulation in which someone makes you question your memories, emotions, and perceptions. Freud explained that people who don't confront their repressed traumas project their own conflicts onto others, and one way to do this is by convincing themselves that the problem is you. The goal of gaslighting isn't just to win an argument, it's to make you feel that you can't trust your own mind. Because when you doubt yourself, you become dependent on external validation, and when you depend on external validation, you're easier to control. Hashtag signs that someone is manipulating your perception. 1. They constantly change the story to confuse you. What they said yesterday, today they deny. What they did a week ago, today they claim never happened. And when you try to point it out, they accuse you of being forgetful or misinterpreting things. 2. They make you feel that your emotions aren't valid. Every time you express what you feel, they minimize your reaction. They make you feel you're exaggerating, that you're crazy, or that you always react that way. 3. They isolate you from other people so you don't have another perspective. They tell you others don't understand this situation, that only they know what's really happening. They distance you from people who could help you see the truth. 4. After talking with them, you feel more confused than before. Instead of feeling clarity, you end up wondering if what you experienced was real or not. You struggle to differentiate between what happened and what they say happened. If you've ever felt this with someone, it's a warning sign. Trust your memories and emotions. If something made you feel bad, it's valid. You don't need someone else to tell you if your perception is correct or not. Surround yourself with people who provide clarity. Talk with someone you trust and compare your perception with that of others. Many times, an external observer can help you see what you, within the manipulation, cannot notice. If they constantly make you feel that the problem is you, it's time to reconsider that relationship, because a person who truly loves you will never play with your perception to make you doubt yourself. And here comes the most disturbing part, because there are people who not only manipulate your reality but also use their own unresolved issues to make you carry what doesn't belong to you. There's a type of manipulation even more subtle than gaslighting. It's not about making you doubt your reality but about burdening you with another person's internal conflicts until you make them your own. Freud talked about projection as a defense mechanism where a person attributes unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and impulses to another person. That is, instead of recognizing their own defects, fears, or insecurities, they place them on someone else. And many times, that person is you. Perhaps you've been accused of being selfish when, in reality, they were the ones who acted that way. Or they've told you you're too cold when they're the ones who can't handle their emotions. Or they've made you feel guilty for something that wasn't even your responsibility. When someone doesn't face their own repressed traumas, they make you carry them. Let me tell you something. A while ago, I met someone who always had problems with others. They complained that people betrayed them, treated them badly, that everyone was selfish and manipulative. But upon observing their behavior, I realized something. They were the one doing exactly what they criticized in others. They despised those who didn't agree with them, demanded loyalty but didn't offer it, always had a story in which they were the victim and others were the villains. And the most curious thing was that they tried to make me believe I was the same way. They told me I wasn't empathetic enough, that I didn't value them enough, that I was acting just like the people they hated so much. And for a time I began to doubt, am I really being selfish? Am I the problem? But then I understood what was happening. They didn't want to see their own unresolved traumas, so they tried to put them on me. They didn't want to accept that their behavior was toxic, so they needed someone else to carry the blame. If after interacting with someone, you're left feeling confused or with an emotional burden you didn't have before, ask yourself if it really belongs to you or if someone else imposed it on you. People who project never accept their responsibility. They always find a way to turn themselves into victims and make you feel you're the problem. Learn to differentiate what is yours from what isn't. If someone accuses you of something, make an honest analysis. If you really made a mistake, accept it. But if you feel they're imposing something that doesn't correspond to you, reject it. Set clear boundaries. If you detect that someone is constantly making you carry their emotional chaos, distance yourself. It's not your responsibility to heal what they don't want to face. And here comes the most impactful part, because there are people who not only project their issues onto you but who deep down can't stand to see you shine. There are people who enjoy your company, who admire you, who share moments with you, but deep down can't stand to see you shine. They don't say it openly, they don't attack you directly, they don't do anything evident that you can point out with certainty. But every time you advance, every time you achieve something important in your life, their attitude changes. They stop congratulating you, they minimize your achievements, they find a way to downplay what you've accomplished. And if you pay attention, you'll realize it's not a coincidence. Freud explained that envy is often rooted in our most primal desires and frustrations. When someone hasn't worked through their own internal conflicts, when they haven't healed their own frustrations, they can't stand that someone else achieves what they haven't achieved. And the most dangerous thing about this is that many times these people aren't far from you. They're not strangers, they're not obvious rivals, they're friends, they're family members, they're people who surround you but who silently feel resentment about your growth. Let me tell you something. I knew someone who was always in my close circle, someone who on the surface was a great friend, someone who was always there, until I started to grow. Every time I achieved something important, their attitude changed. Their words were no longer of support but of doubt disguised as advice. Every time I had a new project, they would tell me, "It's not that big a deal, are you sure this will work?" There are a lot of people doing the same thing, I don't know if it's worth it. At first, I thought they simply wanted to help me be realistic, but over time, I noticed a pattern. It wasn't objectivity, it wasn't advice, it was a subtle attempt to minimize my achievements. And the most interesting thing is that this person had no problem celebrating the successes of others, but when it was me who advanced, when it was me who achieved something, it became uncomfortable. It was at that moment that I understood something important. Envy rarely shows itself in an obvious way. It doesn't always come in the form of open hatred or evident attacks. Many times it comes disguised as friendship, as support, as closeness, because there are people who want you close, but only as long as you don't shine brighter than them. Envy doesn't always show itself with aggressive words. Many times it hides in small gestures, in subtle reactions that reveal what someone really feels. If when you share good news with someone, their reaction isn't one of sincere joy but of indifference or discomfort, pay attention. If instead of congratulating you, they try to find flaws in what you've achieved, if they fill you with doubts, if somehow they make your achievement seem less than it is, it's a sign. If you notice they celebrate the successes of others, but when it's your turn, they show themselves distant or cold, there's something more behind their attitude. If every time you advance in life, they start to distance themselves little by little, it's not a coincidence. It's not that you're changing too much, it's that their unresolved jealousy can't tolerate your light. Freud talked about how unresolved conflicts in our unconscious manifest in our behavior. People who feel envy many times aren't conscious that they feel it. They don't see themselves as envious, they don't accept that their words, their attitudes, their coldness come from a place of resentment. And that's why, instead of confronting their own internal conflicts, they channel that energy into trying to stop you, not always in an evident way, not always with direct attacks, but with subtle phrases that sow doubt in you. If you're not aware of this, their influence can make you start to limit yourself without realizing it. It can make you slow your pace, reduce your ambitions, feel guilty for wanting more. And if you don't cut the tie in time, it can make you dim your own light so as not to make others uncomfortable. You don't need to confront these people. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to demonstrate to them that you deserve what you've achieved. The only thing you need to do is detect their signals and distance yourself. Surround yourself with people who truly celebrate your success, people who don't feel threatened by your growth but who are inspired by it. Because when someone really appreciates you, your success doesn't make them uncomfortable. It doesn't slow you down. It doesn't fill you with doubts. On the contrary, it pushes you to keep moving forward. And here comes the greatest warning sign, because there are people who not only feel envy or manipulate your perception but who are capable of bringing chaos into your life in ways you can't imagine. There are people who not only manipulate you, drain your energy, or envy you silently. There's a type of person who goes beyond all that, someone who, if you keep them close, can ruin your emotional and mental stability and even your future. These people don't come with obvious danger signs. They don't come with a warning written on their forehead. In fact, many times they present themselves as friends, as partners, as someone who seems to have a special connection with you. But over time, the pattern always repeats itself. They appear with force in your life, with intensity. At first, their presence is exciting, magnetic, captivating. But little by little, they begin to sow disorder, confusion, drama, instability. And before you realize it, you've become part of their chaos. Freud talked about the death drive, or thanatos, a destructive energy present in people who haven't integrated their traumas and who, instead of confronting them, carry them to every place they go, destroying everything in their path. Let me tell you something. A while ago, I met someone who had a different energy. They were someone with a strong presence, with an attractive personality, with a way of speaking that made you feel you were before someone special. From the beginning, their energy was intense. Conversations were never superficial, there were always deep emotions involved, stories charged with intensity, moments that seemed taken from a movie. And at first, that captivated me. But over time, I began to notice a pattern. This person lived in chaos. They were always in the middle of problems, there was always a new drama, a crisis, a conflict with someone else. Their life was never stable, never at peace. And the worst part is that without realizing it, they were dragging me into their storm. What at the beginning seemed like intensity was now exhaustion. What seemed like a deep connection was now an emotional game. What seemed like authenticity was now an endless circle of problems, of ups and downs, of overflowing emotions, until I understood something. This person didn't want to leave the chaos because their identity was built around it. And by having me close, they were turning me into part of their disordered world. There's a difference between someone going through a bad time and someone who constantly lives in chaos. If a person seems to have no stability in any area of their life, if there are always conflicts around them, if their past is full of turbulent stories with every person they've known, it's only a matter of time before you become the next victim of their storm. Look at their history. If every relationship they've had has ended in drama, if every friendship they've built has ended in conflict, if every opportunity in their life has been wasted by their own behavior, don't believe it will be different with you. You are not the exception, no one is. Freud said that we repeat the patterns we haven't resolved. And these people continue repeating the same patterns because they haven't taken consciousness of their own unresolved traumas. They're not ready to change, they don't seek stability. And if you stay by their side, their storm will become yours. Don't try to rescue them. Don't try to change their pattern. Don't stay waiting for someday everything to improve. If someone lives in chaos and refuses to leave it, the only thing you can do is walk away. Protect yourself. Surround yourself with people with emotional stability. Create your own order, your own peace, and don't allow anyone to ruin it. Because if someone drags chaos to every part of their life, it's only a matter of time before they also drag it into yours. If you've made it this far, you now understand something that many people take years to discover. Not all people who come into your life are harmless. Some drain your energy without you noticing. Others subtly manipulate you until they make you doubt yourself. Some project their own conflicts onto you, making you carry what isn't yours. And there are those who silently can't stand to see you shine and will do whatever it takes to dim your light. But the most dangerous of all is that person who lives in chaos and seeks others to drag along with them. Freud taught us that our peace and our balance depend on recognizing the energies that surround us. It's not about living in fear, but about developing awareness. If you learn to detect these signs, if you take seriously the energy that others transmit to you, you'll be able to protect yourself before it's too late. Remember, walking away from those who don't add to your life isn't selfishness. Setting boundaries isn't coldness. Trusting your intuition isn't exaggeration. It's your right and your responsibility. Because those who don't protect their valuable peace sooner or later lose it.